Hello, so welcome to this episode of History Hunters. You might be asking yourself, why is Jeff out in the middle of this dry weed patch? I'm alongside Highway 99. I'm here to talk about just a little bit of pop culture that was here in the Central Valley of California. If you know anything about the Central Valley of California, it's vast, it's wide open, there's a lot of crops that grow on it. There's also this freeway right over here that carries a lot of truck traffic. Back in 1957, the truckers would stop here at a place called Blueberry Hill Cafe. Back in the 1970s, when they widened Highway 99, they had to take out Blueberry Hill Cafe. And I think that I'm walking right here on what was called the Robin Avenue exit off of Highway 99. This is how you would get to Blueberry Hill Cafe, which is right over yonder. So these telephone poles right here are the telephone poles that were here back in the 60s when Blueberry Hill Cafe was here. So if you exited the freeway, you would go right alongside here. Right in the spot over here was where there was a Beacon gas station, and there was a truck stop that serviced trucks 24 hours a day. I'm intimately aware of Livingston because my grandparents lived here up until the time that they passed away. I had passed by Blueberry Hill Cafe a number of times. I never did stop here and get to eat. I remember on our senior trip to Disneyland, our bus stopped here, either on the way down or the way back. I think it was the way down. Bus driver had to get something. We weren't allowed to get out, but I was literally within feet of Blueberry Hill Cafe. Unfortunately, never got to eat there. It's really such a shame that a notable landmark such as this was tore down, but that's what progress does. There's really no signs of any buildings out here, nor of any signposts or anything. I think I'm standing right about where the front of the restaurant would have been. So now if you want to get off the freeway in Livingston, you have to take the Winton Parkway exit over here. It's like it's about a quarter of a mile down the road from where this location is. So you're probably wondering how Blueberry Hill Cafe got its name. Well, let me tell you. The story is that when Ray Pratt opened this restaurant in 1957, he didn't know what to call it. At that time, a customer popped a quarter in the jukebox and played Fats Domino, Blueberry Hill. It was number 2 on the Billboard Top 40 charts in 1956. The song had actually been recorded in 1940, I believe by Glenn Miller, if I'm not mistaken. It was reported that Fats Domino himself heard about the Blueberry Hill Cafe when he was traveling through this area, so he decided to give it a shot. He came in and he reportedly told a waitress or the owner, I'm not sure which one, that Blueberry Hill had been good to both of them. It was a pretty popular place because this was between major cities like Stockton and Fresno, and they advertised on radio station KMJ. It was a 50,000 watt station, so their ad was heard in the Bay Area and all the way down to Valencia. In fact, their ad also ran on KRAK crack radio in Sacramento, and at night the skip signal was heard as far away as Alaska, Nova Scotia, it's been said. The voice of Frida Violus beckoned the truck drivers, hello out there, you truckers, tired, hungry, ready for a break? After a hard day's driving, why not take a break at the Blueberry Hill Cafe? Somewhere along the years I heard that John Wayne, the actor, was traveling through this area and that he stopped and tried out Blueberry Hill Cafe. I don't know if that's true. I can't imagine why John Wayne would be in Central California, especially in this remote part of the valley, unless he were traveling to a filming location, possibly up in Sutter Creek. I know that he's filmed a movie up there one time. The building was kind of known for having its river rock all over the front of it. I'm scouring this area and I don't see any remnants of it, no. Of course, Caltrans and their tractors and the bulldozers moved through here, probably bearing just about anything that was left of Blueberry Hill Cafe. Look at this. He had a Pepsi lid. I don't think that dates back to the 70s. There was actually a signal light on Highway 99, and it's been said that Livingston was the last stop that had to be eliminated A number of people had been killed at that intersection up to the south here. It really kind of bums me that institutions like this have been removed from the American landscape. You probably in your own hometown know of a place that went out of business over the years. Right there, I see asphalt. It's the asphalt of the Robin Avenue exit. As you can see in the aerial photographs, this is the actual road. I think it was James Dobson that said that time has a way of trashing your treasures. I think it's true just about anything. Anything that man builds is destroyed in time, including this road right here. There's a piece of concrete that dates back probably to this area that I'm discussing. Here's the nail. Could be from Blueberry Hill Cafe. So right now let's go over to the Merced River. I'm going to talk a little bit about this area's link to the 1860s and to the life of John Muir. There's a reason I brought you out here. This is the peaceful flowing Merced River. Some of the water flowing here towards the San Joaquin River and out to the San Francisco Bay is the same water that fell from all those majestic waterfalls in Yosemite National Park. Yosemite was the destination of John Muir, the conservationist, when he arrived here in California in March of 1868. And he walked right through here on the way to Yosemite for the first time. John Muir made his way to San Francisco. Then he went to the Oakland Ferry, made his way to San Jose, then to Gilroy. John Muir came over the Pacheco Pass, and he walked all the way to Yosemite. His path took him right through here, which is the north bank of the Merced River. He knew that the Merced River flows out of Yosemite National Park, so he knew if he followed the river that he'd make his way to Yosemite. John Muir had to cross the San Joaquin River there in Hills Ferry. It's on the west side of this county. It's near Newman, California. At the top of the pass, Muir caught this never-to-be-forgotten view of the Great Central Valley. He really roughed it. He camped out along the way. While a lot of people might see this as a boring and bleak countryside, Muir relished in the level and flowery lake of pure sunshine, 40 or 50 miles wide, 500 miles long, one rich furrowed garden of yellow compost. And from the eastern boundary of this vast golden flower bed rose the mighty Sierras, miles in height and so gloriously colored and radiant it seemed not clothed with light, but wholly composed of it, like some wall of some celestial city. Then it seemed to me that the Sierra should be called not the Nevada or Snowy Range, but the Range of Light. It's very possible that John Muir even camped out in this spot right here along the Merced River. You could probably hear the Highway 99 traffic up there. It's one of the major thoroughfares. I see evidence of a almost camp down here. The miles and miles of wildflowers that they walked through never left Muir's memory. He wrote that the Central Valley was one smooth, continuous bed of honey bloom, so marvelously rich that in walking from one end of it to the other, a distance of more than 400 miles, your foot would press upon 100 flowers with each step. So let's go over to downtown Livingston, where I'll talk to you a little bit about the history that I know in that area. So the development of Livingston and a number of towns in the valley here was prompted by the building of the Central Pacific Railroad, or the Southern Pacific Railroad, from about 1870 to 1872. And Livingston's first map recorded was December 4th, 1872, by Edward Olds. He was considered the founder of Livingston, California. The first person that settled this area was 1862. A man by the name of David Chedester. He had some land over here. He also sold supplies to some of the crews that were developing this railroad. And 3rd Street up here is primarily the main street of town that dates back to the 1870s. But I'll pull over here and walk up 3rd Street. There are parts of downtown Livingston that are very Disney-esque. This is one of them. The Winton Ireland building. I'm betting that thing dates back to the 20s, but it looks like it could have come straight out of Main Street, USA, Disneyland. So as you look down 3rd Street down this way, that was one of the oldest blocks, commercial blocks in town. It's the one featured in this picture. It's a black and white photo, which is just immediately next to the train tracks. Before they became outlaws, some of the Dalton brothers lived here. We know that Grat Dalton tended bar and a saloon on this street. Cole Dalton was also out here. Bill Dalton married a Livingston woman down the street, 1885, and he lived down the street here with his father-in-law. Now, it's my understanding that the shopping center over here was the same block that had the saloon where Grat Dalton and Bill Dalton visited. Of course, Grat tended bar there, but Bill Dalton played a trick on his brother Grat by hiding a dead cat in a box, and the stink got so bad that Grat finally couldn't ignore it, and they finally found out later it was a prank that Bill Dalton was playing on his brother Grat. Grat Dalton himself was convicted of a February 6, 1891 train robbery near what is now Early Mart in Tulare County. He escaped from jail and he made his way to Oklahoma. He died while trying to rob a bank in Coffeyville, Kansas. On October 5th, 1892, Bill Dalton robbed a bank in Longview, Texas on May 23rd, 1894, and was tracked down and shot to death by marshals 7 days later in Oklahoma. Bill was actually buried right down the street there. His body was later exhumed and removed to the Turlock Memorial Park, where it is today in an unmarked grave. It really kind of blows my mind that the famous Dalton brothers were here in this dusty, sleepy little town in Merced County. So the reason I came over here to the Livingston Historical Museum is because here on display is one of the last traffic signals that was on Highway 99, stretching the 275 miles between Bakersfield, California and Sacramento, California. And they've got it right outside here. This Livingston stoplight is the last link to a highway system that connected country towns that sprang up along the railroad stations. What is now Highway 99 was originally a railroad service road used by horse-drawn wagons. Chances are that I stared at this thing when I was a kid in a car. As you can see right here, there's a plaque stating that this was the last stoplight between Canada and Mexico on Highway 99, removed from service in 1896. It's crazy. There it is. It's all dirty. There's the green light, yellow light, and the red light. I suppose that it was people running that red light that killed approximately 40 people who were killed at that junction over here. It's been replaced by a freeway that goes underground. My great-grandparents script and saved, and they lived in this tiny little, almost nondescript house, and I could never understand why they were socking away money and they never spent it on themselves. But my great-grandfather, he was born in 1897 or 1896. Had a pretty interesting life working for the railroad. Of course, my great-grandparents were from Oklahoma, so I imagine this country kind of reminded them of home. This old 1950s motel is a throwback to the days when Highway 99 passed right by here, and it hasn't changed very much except that the sign has been altered over the years, but it pretty much looks the way it did back in the 1950s in this postcard photo. As I sit here on this used tire, I want to thank you for joining us on this episode of History Hunters. I hope you learned a little bit more about this little tiny town in Merced County and about Blueberry Hill Cafe that was right over there. Now, if you got to eat there, I would love to see a comment in the section below. Tell us what you thought of it. Tell us what you miss about it. And also, we would always love to have you as a new subscriber. So thank you so much for tuning in.